Thank you, everybody, for coming. We got Flipside here today. We're going to be talking to them for a little bit. Who's behind the Flip page today?
Hey guys, it's admin as always. Same spaces host that we do in all of our spaces.
Welcome. I know we've been in some spaces together. It's been great to kind of listen in to see what you got going on. So I figured it would be a great idea for you guys to come share it here. Tell us a little bit more about what Flipside has going on and how people in the community could take advantage of some of the tools that you are building out.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the show. And thanks for making all of our spaces so interesting as well. We always love having you and friends on. Basically, we are a data platform. So we curate and organize and gather on-chain and off-chain data like token prices and NFT metadata. So all those analyses you see floating around every time, somebody's posting a chart. Like even Frank this morning was like, don't be the guy that posts a chart to say, I told you so when prices go down. So those types of people, but also the good ones who are posting analyses to like help you before prices go down, or the people who talk about when before Terra had its issues earlier in the year, a few people raised alarm bells, like they got that information by studying the data, right? And so our goal is to make that as easy as possible to do your own research. And so we have sort of an app that allows you to easily ask questions of the data, little queries that return results like what's the activity on Uniswap for certain pools or tokens, or any of the other 15 protocols that we cover, from Ethereum to Polygon to Avalanche to Solana. We're pretty much everywhere. So if you have a favorite chain that you are curious about or you want to like keep tabs on, you can do that for free at Flipside. There's a few other big data providers in this space, but none of them offer their services for free. And the reason that we're able to do that is because we actually partner with the blockchains themselves. And we think like, if you're a blockchain and you are the one who quote unquote owns decentralized data, then it's kind of your duty to make that accessible to everyone in Web3. So blockchains typically cover the cost associated with curating data so that we don't have to charge people for it, which I find super, super awesome. And at the end of this month, actually, we're completely revamping our app and releasing a new set of tools for analysts to make it even easier and faster. So we've got a really exciting time ahead of us. And I think it's a really good year for doing your own research and like staying informed in Web3, because after last year, we see what happens when people ignore the data, right? Not that this was anyone's fault, of course, except for Sam Bankman-Fried and everyone else that was misusing money, but it helps us to protect ourselves against people like that. So that's a little intro to Flipside and what we're up to.
Yeah, I was on there digging around yesterday. So you could query different blockchains. And what is the experience that one would need to be able to query data? Because you can query prices. I saw you could query like number of wallets, LPs, and what other types of data can you query? And then what is the experience level that a user would need to actually use this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, anything that happens on chain and a lot of things that happen off chain are queryable. So if people are using a supported protocol, there's a full list of the protocols we support on our website at flipsidecrypto.xyz. But basically, if it's a popular chain, like we support it. And then if it happens on chain in transactions, if it's wallet balances, if it's trading, if it's on a DEX, if it's on even some centralized exchanges, you can basically query anything you like. And what a query is basically you use SQL. So it requires a little bit of technical awareness, but it's actually really simple. It's not a full-on programming language. It's more natural. It just uses a little bit of a weird phrasing in some cases. So you'll put like brackets around certain terms. And you can find this all on YouTube, or actually our DAO that we spun up, Metrics DAO, has a bunch of free courses and videos and seminars where they teach people how to do this for free. People can go from no experience to fully able to query things in like a week, basically. It's pretty simple. But yeah, you can ask just about any question. So if you want to know how many active wallets there are in a day trading on Uniswap, we can get that information in just a couple of seconds. So any of the basically data-based facts that you want to find out about a given chain or protocol, you can ask that of the data.
You guys provide already, like we don't have to sit there and code anything from scratch, no algorithms. We just have to know how to use the SQL.
Yeah, exactly. SQL is just like a way of organizing the question so that the computer understands it. But also, like, if you're like, man, I really don't want to with SQL, like I just don't want to put the time in. Like completely, I haven't, to be honest, yet either. As admin, I'm like doing it on the side a little bit, but
it's not that bad.
Procrastinated.
It's just
It's
more about organization. I was reading through the white paper, and like I made it as far as the skimmers and all that, and I'm like, okay, they have built algorithms and stuff, but I wasn't like, yeah, it's actually pretty cool.
And even if
Yeah.
you don't know SQL, the other thing is at the end of this month, we're launching a complete refresh of the tool and the website. And what we've got planned, I'll give you a little bit of alpha, is a really good way to search through dashboards that analysts have created. And pretty much we put out regular bounties to try to attack like most of the questions we think people want to know. And so if there's a question that you have, if somebody else has already asked that question, you can search it on the new website at the end of this month. And you don't even have to query it yourself. The results will probably already be in somebody else's dashboard. And with our new search feature, like you'll be able to pull that up really quickly.
So what you mean by questions, if somebody asks, what are the active wallets on Ethereum today? Is that what you mean by question?
Yeah, exactly. So if there's a certain piece of data you want to know, the active wallets on Ethereum, or like how much bonk is being traded, how long people hold bonk for, or pretty much anything that can be represented by numbers on a blockchain. I phrase it as questions mainly because I feel like that's the most helpful way to understand what a query is.
Is it complex enough
Sorry.
to ask for a comparison?
Yeah, so you can ask for comparative metrics, and then you can also chart metrics individually and compare the charts. So there's like flexibility in how you execute. It's like you get data all the way to the base layer, so you can get as granular or as like macro as you want.
Data is actually really important.
Yes, very important. Data is key. And I think also when people think about just being in Web3 or wanting to work in Web3, people don't talk a lot about the research analysts and the data analysts, a big need in this space. I do have a question. So I saw that somebody had done some data analytics for Bonk, and then they put it in this really nice website. Is that something you guys provide, or how does that work to create the charts and make it user-friendly to read the data?
Yeah, we actually, it can be both. So we provide a platform. I don't know if anybody's heard of Dune, but they are another popular dashboarding tool in the space. We have a similar tool. That's part of like the full suite that we're revamping in the new month, because we had a good one, but it could be so much better. And like we're really excited to make a lot of improvements. And so like the UI gets better, it gets more customization and things. So you can make what we call them dashboards, basically, to present the data and make it like easy to visualize and understand. So you can do all of that for free at the website right now, and then the functions are going to get 10 times as good at the end of the month. So we're super excited about that.
I think what you guys are doing is so needed, because I've noticed people who look at crypto through data first and then they go on Twitter and Medium tend to fare better than people that just look at information on Medium and Twitter or Discord, right? Like the data is insanely different. So I guess instead of asking the question, like the difference between Dune and you guys, what type of insight have you seen or users have seen that is completely different, right? If you look at the data and then when you hear what the news and the FUD on Twitter is completely different. It's like black and white.
Oh man, so much. I mean, the most basic one I can give to is that, or the most common one I would say, is the amount of times that a project will talk about, its TVL and its other metrics, and then you can get into the data and check out like what wallets are associated with that, what user base do they really have, and you find that a lot of the numbers end up being inflated, right? And so it's kind of another way of like protecting yourself against marketing or like hype rhetoric. So it's cool because what you do, kind of to Nico's other point of combining data sets, you can compare metrics like how many active wallets there are, because a lot of people will spin up wallets, like brand new wallets with bots, and then those wallets never participate again after bumping up whatever the initial airdrop was, right? So if you're like, oh man, this airdrop had 1 million wallets participate, but 99% of those were bots made by the founding team and never made another transaction after that airdrop, other than maybe to sell the token and then send it back to the original team wallet. That happens sometimes, and you can pretty much just find that out by going and looking at the data of the chain that they're on. So it's a crazy valuable tool. It's just been a little bit out of reach for a lot of people, and we really want to make it as easy as possible so that everyone can do their own research and we don't have to rely on so much like trust of new founders and all this energy.
You guys have a lot of different blockchains. So I see Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, Flow, Solana, Near. It looks like you guys are going to be adding more blockchains or looking to add more blockchains as well. which is good.
Always, yeah. The more data, the better.
Quick question on this one. Based on all the blockchain you guys are aggregating, is there one that's not been spoke of so much, but actually when you look at the numbers, it's way more activity than we would be led to believe?
Yeah, one thing I find that crypto native people underestimate is flow. And I mean, honestly, every chain has been really interesting and exciting to get to dig into. Like even Solana, right? With after the FTX, a lot of people got scared and left. When you looked at the fundamentals, developer activity was still really high, right? TVL went down, but dev activity, wallet activity, consistently active wallets across multiple projects, they all pretty much remain the same. And then, dev activity took a slight dip on Solana, for example, over Christmas, but then pumped right back up like this first week of January, which was really interesting to see. You can even basically see that developers are taking Christmas break. You know what I mean? Like that's the level of insight this gives you into projects. But yeah, flow is one that I found that like people really underestimate because they're like, oh, it's like sports NFTs and, it's kind of, they're not like really crypto native. Their marketing is pretty Web 2. They don't feel super crypto native, but they actually have like a large market share. Like weirdly, like with the NFL All Day and the NBA Top Shot, like they have a massive amount of users that just come from normal Web 2. Like they're a great onboarding blockchain. And I think we got to give them a little more credit for that. And I think also that we'll see more of that for the Web3 native blockchains that we really love. They'll get that too. There's not much of a competition because Polygon also saw an increase with Reddit and Starbucks. And so basically what I'm trying to say there is both the ones that we all knew and loved, like Polygon, and then the ones that we kind of like gave a little bit of to, like Flow, they're both doing really well with onboarding, surprisingly, despite market conditions, despite everything. It's actually super encouraging for the year ahead.
That's a great point, especially what Dow was saying that, if you should look at the data before listening to people on Twitter, because what you said about Solana, everybody's like, oh, all the developers in Solana left. And based upon the data that you're seeing, like that's absolutely not true. So yeah, don't listen to people on Twitter, look at the data. And if you want to take it a step further, learn how to pull the data. And, this is a tool to do that.
How do you do data with something that's not on chain, but is still running on Polygon? Because Polygon has a lot of things that they don't have on-chain analysis for right now, such as DraftKings and other NFT projects that they have running, but they have a huge amount of volume on those things.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Basically, the context of that data, it makes it so that we have to specifically go out and curate it intentionally. So when you're ingesting blockchain data, you basically have the one source of if it's on chain, it gets ingested and we just have to organize it and clean it up and make sure that it's understandable. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but like every blockchain stores things differently and communicates things differently. And so for me to know that what this information is wallet balances is actually kind of a complicated task at the beginning until we label it all. But like you said, like some of that information is not included on chain, especially with like the DraftKings stuff. And what we have to do is go look into their databases as well. We have to do like outreach to those projects, which is why it's so rare to find a data provider that actually does that. Is it's a whole other task. But what we do is we start with the biggest projects on the chain that do have off-chain data, and we work with them and we partner with them. For example, like SushiSwap has a lot of off-chain data, surprisingly, as a DEX that we ingest organically and like have to go out of our way to do. So same thing with NBA Top Shot, NFL All Day. The DraftKings, I don't think we've done yet, but we are constantly looking into the top projects on all of the chains. And we have a whole list, we have a protocol advocacy team that's basically working like 24/7 to meet with different projects and work with them to get them ingested. And then once they agree, it just takes a little bit of time. But I do know that we're in the process. So once we have that, all we really do is we take where we're getting that data stream from, usually like an API that pings their databases, and we just funnel that into our tables. And then you can query it the same exact way as all the other blockchain data, which makes it really convenient. You don't have to switch up methods. You don't have to change up how you're asking for it. And you can put it into charts and everything else alongside the actual blockchain data.
So is the data real time, or what is the lag time, or how does that work?
It takes like 10 minutes max if there's really busy exchange. For example, on SushiSwap, if you have like a really high trading volume day, somebody will make a trade and then they'll come and check and refresh, and it'll take about 10 minutes max. But usually on a good day where there's not a massive amount of activity on a small chain, it's almost instantaneous updates. But that lag time gets to be just about a couple of minutes.
As a developer, can people use data from Flipped for building their own applications?
10,000%. Yeah. We have a couple of ways to access the data. So there's the dashboarding tool in the SQL editor where if you want to go in and ask like a specific query, you can do that. But that's for people who want to build dashboards and publish analysis. And it's really helpful for like Twitter. Or if you have here's a little bit of alpha. If you run a crypto project, get somebody on your team or in your community to run queries on your metrics and build dashboards for them. It's all free and it's marketing, right? A lot of projects who like really know what's up, what they'll do is they'll go to either Dune or Flipside. They will build this dashboard and say, hey, look at all the cool shit we've done, and tweet about it. And people, eat that up because it's got visuals, it's got all this charts and everything. And so it's a really great marketing tool for projects. But yeah, if you're a builder and you want to build a tool that takes in exchange data, or we built a Uniswap liquidity pool calculator, so you can calculate like your impermanent loss and like a better way to earn yield. So any way that data can be used to build a project or integrated into a project, we have both an API for free that you can ping. So for small developers and big developers alike, like this is really useful because it's all free. Like I said, because we charge the chains for this. And so the people get the data for free. And so you can ping the API for free. We also have, our founders are a little, they're cool, is what I'm trying to say. We have a product called Shroom DK because, I don't know, they like shrooms. And it's an SDK, so it's like a builder kit. And so it's free, but it's an NFT that you can mint. And so it's a really cool like Web3 psychedelic kind of approach. But it's basically all of our data in a builder kit in a free SDK. And it supports Python and R and JavaScript. So whatever like you're coding in, like it's there, and you can just get like basically all of our on-chain data for free into your project.
Good question for Flipside. This is actually really cool. Like digging into the website right now and trying to log in with Ethereum, which is a nice surprise there.
That's dope, right? I saw that too.
Yeah, that's really cool implementation. Like,
yeah, that's where they got you. You saw the sign in with Ethereum and you're like, sold.
I don't have to download a Solana Bunk wallet to connect and send the token. No, I'm already there. So this is really exciting. But this is a lot of work too, a lot of development that's happening. The website is really well made, even the mushroom thing, with the NFTs and all that. Where's all that backing coming from? How do you guys get funding for all this?
Yeah, it's a great question. Flipside's actually been around for probably nearly 5 years now. They started really small, building, like a single table, working with smaller chains, just try to prove the concept. But ultimately, we got investments last year from CEO is a venture capitalist who has worked in crypto since about 2017, about a year before, Flipside was started. And he has his own venture capital firm that he put a lot of his own money into funding initially. And then they raised 2 series worth of fundraising that I don't know if I'm allowed to speak to the actual number, but quite a bit, to the point where we're like unconcerned about bear market conditions essentially going forward. We know we're able to build and sustain ourselves for as long as necessary. And then the revenue, basically the expenses that come with like curating the data and upkeeping the data, whatever isn't coming out of our fundraising comes from the fact that we're partnered with the blockchains that we cover. And so the reason we wouldn't include a blockchain's data is if they're not willing to partner with us on that effort. And the reason we want to partner with the blockchains instead of selling our product is just because we think that the point of the blockchain foundation is to provide all of the infrastructure for a blockchain to operate, right? It's like, it's your job as a blockchain to manage the blockchain. And so if we're just talking about the data of the blockchain, then we shouldn't be asking the users to pay to access that when it's all transparent and free anyway. Like I can go to the block explorer for Ethereum and it would just be much more of a pain to get this information. And it's not curated, it's not labeled, it's all kind of raw and it's pretty difficult. I would really have to know what I'm doing, but it's there. And so we would feel really weird charging people for stuff like that like technically is free. And so it's just the cost of curating and maintaining and making sure that it's up to speed and everything. We ask the blockchains to basically what they'll do is they'll delegate to us. It gives us a little bit of like a revenue stream in the sense that we can become stakers on the chain and validators, but also makes us like participants in the chain. And that's what we try to do is rather than just selling a package, we ask that they delegate native tokens to us, and then we can become like a pillar in the community. And so that's kind of our approach. We feel like Web3 is pretty self-sustainable. And so if we just participate, we should be able to be self-sustainable as well.
How easy will it be to embed this graph charts into my own website? If I want to use your service as just a data and provider, how easy would it be for me to just create my own website where I have my own dashboards and your data for that?
Yeah, it's super easy because we have the API that you can ping for free. So you can pretty much integrate the same SQL editor into any platform that you want to build. And then any of the results that you would get, of course. And if you have your own preferences for like how to make dashboards, you have a site that you want to publish your own information on, you can just pretty much go to our API documentation and it'll step-by-step guide you through that process. Otherwise, if you want to build it into an app, for example, you would just use the SDK, which is the Shroom DK, the little mushroom thing. But yeah, so either way, it's like free and pretty simple. As if you already know how to set up your own site, then it's like pretty much a no-brainer.
That's a lot of good stuff for free, for real. Are you guys planning on later in the future, if this gains track, kind of paywalling the API and things like that? It's a lot of good stuff for free.
We get that question a decent amount, and I really respect it. I think, especially with the other providers in the space, there's like certain features that are free, but once you hit a certain amount, you have to pay, or if you want to download it, you have to pay. We just really strongly feel that like we should never charge for the data. And so we will charge institutions. So when we get like enterprise level data, if you're a massive company, like Squarespace or Chase or something like that, we'll charge them. We'll say, well, we provide a service, like a white glove service and support, and we'll guide you guys and do all this stuff for you. And we charge for that. But the data itself will always be free, no matter how big we grow. And like, that's one of the first things I was told when I was onboarded. Our messaging is that we will always. And like, if you get that question, the answer is always. And so we've had a chain decide not to participate with us in this because they have to pay for it. During the bear market, that we were wondering like how many of our chain partners were going to decide that. And none of them did except one. And this one was like really not willing to do it for so long. They tried everything, and it just turned out that like they had to, for a time, dedicate resources to something else. But that's what happens when market conditions get really harsh for like a specific client. But our specific model for us as a company and our sustainability is completely protected. And we still have 16 protocols and counting. We have multiple deals that I can't talk about in the works with other chains and other protocols. And so we're still growing. And yeah, it's been a really good demonstration of how you can build in Web3 with like sustainable money, even if you're not participating in all of like the shill hype stuff and you're not stepping on the low guy. It's nice to get to work with a company in Web3 that wants to protect the end user. And it's also proof that blockchains do too, right? Because the chains that we're partnered with are willing to shoulder the cost because they know that it's worth it for their users to be informed and for their users to get to create dashboards and use the data, and for their builders to have free access to this. And because that's one thing that Solana's been super excited about recently is their big builder activity, and we're really close with them. We're hosting a hackathon actually pretty soon. And a lot of their builders have like reached out and like, hey, it's been fantastic to have access to this data for free because it makes what we're building so much less worrying, right? Because we don't have to come up with all the costs for the infrastructure and everything.
No, that's great to hear, especially that the blockchains are willing to do this and provide this data. It's great to hear. And I see that they also have, they have the layer twos on here. They have Arbitrum and Optimism and so forth. So it's good to see. Before we wrap up, but I do appreciate you coming and taking the time out. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks. This has been great. It's always great to get to talk to you. And these questions were fantastic. The only thing I would say, like, leave people with is if you feel any anxiety around figuring out how to do your own research and make these queries, you got two options, right? Flipside, we're going to be launching some developer academies for if you really want to go high level, but then Metrics DAO, does free courses, introductory SQL courses, and they also do bounties. Like if you want to make a little money while you're learning, that's a really cool way to like make your time worth it, right? To learn how to do this. And then if you're like, I'm too busy, it's not in my skill set, it's not going to be relevant to me, then the dashboards are basically the cheat code. We've got tens of thousands of analysts who are building this information for themselves and for their communities. So chances are, if you have a question, you can find it in a dashboard. So just check out flipsidecrypto.xyz, and yeah, you'll be able to find information to DYOR better, basically. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you.